Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, I'm going to talk about some recent purchases that I made, and I'm just going to talk on something that I've talked multiple times in the past, how I allocate capital, why I choose to allocate capital in various places, and yeah, let's just get right into it. Uh, I recently bought a bunch of ultra modern booster boxes that are out of print, kind of out of print. We're not sure if they're out of print. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, I'll link the video above. I made a video about ultra modern booster box investing. I'm in this weird spot where Troll and Toad Evo is shutting down. I have sold off most of what I had there. A lot of the Sword and Shield era was sold at very high prices during the mania, during the hype of 2020 through 2022. I mean, into earlier this year even. We only just started the Scarlet and Violet block. But me as a business, one thing that I tend to do with my cash flow, I don't like to have too much. There's such a thing as too much cash sitting around. And throughout my entire history being in Pokemon, that has never been the case. Since having gone full time in 2021, I've made it a firm goal like zero, step zero for my capital is funding all of my tax buckets, tax exempt buckets to the top. 401ks, IRAs, and the like. Recently, I went and I did the full funding for the year. So once that was done, I realized that I just am well in advance of my liquidity goals for the year. And 2 weeks ago, I talked about potentially going back and buying some of these, a few cases worth of these recent sets. I did go and do that. Just to timestamp it, here are today's prices. I think I'll revisit this, whether it's in 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years. Who knows how long I'll be on YouTube. But yeah, here are the prices. I didn't pick up all these sets, but I picked up a lot of them. I did mention that distributors are not really distributing in many instances. A lot of these I was able to buy through my distributor, very low limits, over a multi-week period. I don't need to get into the mechanics of it, I guess, but over a multi-week period, I will be able to secure low single-digit case quantity on a lot of these boxes. I did also have several viewers reach out to me, and I purchased some case positions in boxes. If you have cases of boxes, and maybe one thing I'll do in the future is actually like a buy list. I've never really done a buy list for single cards nor for boxes. Maybe I'll do some kind of a buy list on my website at some point. I was surprised how many people I had reach out and actually did like some percentage of recent sales, and I'm not talking like I'm not going to 70% you on a case. Cases are quite liquid, and I paid higher than they would have achieved selling and paying all the fees. Certain people I even sent labels. So if you have cases of product and you're interested in selling within reason 80-90% somewhere in that vicinity, I might be able to work out a deal with you. But anyways, yeah, the main thing that it comes down to ultimately, and I think this is one thing that's commonly lost. I think a lot of people, I'm going to make the comparison, I'm going to talk about it, the S&P 500. A lot of people compare as if it's apples to apples. There's multiple layers here to this, and I've covered it in different videos before, but it's very hard to compare the stock market to passively investing in broad indexes in the stock market to actively participating in a business flipping Pokemon cards. Two things that I do. The scalability, I don't have this much money, but if I had $10 million, I could instantly insert that into the S&P 500 and no one would know any different. There would not be a spike on the graph. If you want to put high 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures of capital into Pokemon, I mean, I'm not into the 7-figure territory, but recently, just over the past few weeks, you see these 3 boxes behind me I bought for Collecticon coming up. I put mid 5 figures into WOTC, and I also put mid 5 figures into Ultra Modern. So I total nearly 6 figures I've put into sealed product in the past few weeks. And if I were looking to do that times 10 or times 100, that's when you'd really run into liquidity issues. You'd really run into storage issues, all that stuff too. But you lose the ability to fit a certain amount of money and scale once it comes to a certain dollar amount. So that's the attractiveness of the S&P 500. But the main thing for me, another thing that makes it not apples to apples, I'm able to invest a certain amount of money, a fairly high 5-figure amount of money, into the S&P 500, into whatever VYM, VOO, just the things that I buy, not advice for what you to buy. Same thing with these ultra modern booster boxes. This is not an advice for you. This is just me talking about my business and what I've purchased. But yeah, I'm able to buy a certain amount, mid to high five figures annually, tax exempt essentially. I'm able to take earnings from the business and plow that in pre-tax, not pay taxes on that money. Whether you go Roth, whether you go traditional, you either pay the taxes up front, let it grow tax-free, or you pay the taxes. Now you kind of gambling / arbitraging on today's tax rates versus future tax rates. Different thing for a different video sometime if people have interest. Why I choose Roth versus traditional in any given year. But yeah, anyways, say I revisit this in a year from now, and a lot of times what people will do is they'll say that these things gained X percent per year, whereas the S&P 500 gained Y percent per year, and X is greater than Y, so you make more money with Pokemon. Storage fees are not considered. Insurance fees are not considered. Sometimes selling fees are considered. Sometimes they're not. Actually factoring in your time and how much you want to pay yourself to do that work of going the active side. And it's always easier in hindsight because hindsight is 2020, and you know where the price moved. You're not really factoring in what were the risks of that. Risk of, loss due to theft, fire, burglary, whatever it may be, or just risk of the, there's definitely, I don't think any sane person could argue that there's inherently more risk investing in cardboard than investing in companies that create products and employ people and all that stuff, all that argument. But yeah, say you see a scenario where $10,000 would grow 10% per year for X amount of years. Even if this was less, like, you really need to factor in. And again, opportunity cost is not an objective fixed amount. It varies to the individual. So how much the tax advantage nature of retirement savings are in the S&P 500 varies heavily by individual. If you're at a very, very high tier, there's further complexities in that. Maybe you can't do Roth. Maybe you have to go a backdoor Roth. Maybe you can't do 401ks and IRAs to the same levels because you have too high of income or whatever it may be. But yeah, depending on your income level, depending on how much profit your business is generating, there are often times that especially these last couple of years, every dollar I'm putting into my 401ks and IRAs, it's saving 30 or 40% off the top because of self-employment taxes and payroll taxes and things of that nature. But this video is kind of meant to be like a timestamp. And I'm not going to show, I don't have handy all the individual receipts. I want to say, let me try to estimate. I want to say I bought about 4 cases of Silver Tempest. And most things in the quantity that I bought them, I was able to be a fair bit under the prices that you see here. I want to say I bought 4 cases of Silver Tempest, approximately 4 of Lost Origin, 2 to 4 of Astral, 4 to 6 of Brilliant. Fusion was probably only 1 or 2. Evolving Skies, I did get a case. I was able to get a case of that. Nowhere near like 90, nowhere near. So this is the only one. This might be the one exception where I paid drastically more than I sold it for. And I've mentioned that there always needs to be an exception to prove every rule, right? I've mentioned many times that I don't look in the rear view and this and that. I think the main reason that I bought it was because I could likely flip it onto the market immediately. I don't intend to flip it onto the market immediately, but the price that I paid, I could probably sell it right on eBay and make about 5 to 10% margin. So, and that goes for all of these boxes that I bought. All of these cases that I bought were at pretty solid prices to where I could make a little bit of margin. And my intent, though, is not an immediate short-term flip. It is a 2 to 5 year time frame, potentially even more, pending how long it takes to achieve a reasonable ROI, I guess. Battle Styles, I believe, was 4 cases. Vivid Voltage was 2 or 3 cases. Darkness Ablaze was a couple cases. And I do have some amount of a couple of these that are coming back from Troll and Toad Evo. Once it's all said and done, I should have Not all the way. I didn't get any Rebel Clash. I didn't get any Sword and Shield base. I'm trying to think what I didn't go into Sun and Moon at all. But yeah, I didn't get Sword and Shield base or Rebel Class. I guess Darkness Ablaze was Sword and Shield set 3. So I should have every set at least one case from Sword Shield 3 all the way up to the modern day. I mean, Paradox Rift is coming up soon. And yeah, though I don't think my money put into the ultra modern booster boxes will outperform the S&P 500, my tax advantaged S&P 500. I do think that there's a decent potential, because here's another side of it that often isn't covered. For me to invest in ultra modern booster product, and one thing that people that aren't maxing out retirement accounts, and they probably don't account for this, but if you're able to invest pre-tax through your work or whatever it may be, through your employer 401k plan, you need to compare paying with post-tax dollars. And buying inventory, depending whether your cash basis, accrual basis, another thing that we don't really need to get too in depth, but there are times that you are able to put essentially pre-tax money that you would otherwise be paying income taxes on. You would be paying taxes on for profiting that over the year. If you're able to put pre-tax money into investments, it is a lot more advantageous, and it can just work for you so many better ways a lot of times. I think tax strategy is something that is very, very underappreciated, and I do intend to make a standalone video at some point on people who are so fee averse and people who are so 1099 averse, and I think they do themselves a major discredit. Consult with professionals, hire a good CPA. There are many, many ways to legally avoid taxes. Tax avoidance is good business. Tax evasion is criminal, and I do not condone that. But yeah, this was just a video to kind of timestamp. If I had to guess, maybe $30,000 or $40,000 I put into ultra modern booster boxes from the Sword and Shield era. A lot of it was just excess capital that I had in excess of what I generally like to have for liquidity reasons. And yeah, we'll see how it pans out. I will cover this in a separate standalone video, but I did go back and I purchased a fair bit of MetaZoo Nightfall. Not a crazy amount, maybe 4 or 5 cases, of which I've never had quantity of, and I'm looking at getting some Cryptid Nation First Edition as well. When product like that goes down, I tend to want to buy it more than when it goes up. Price goes up because price goes up, price goes down because price goes down. I tend to try to do the opposite of that. If something is otherwise the same, and in a lot of these Sword and Shield era booster boxes, in the short-term time frames, a lot of them have seen minor price decreases. So I figured this would be the time that I would throw some money at them. As far as cash flow goes, this money is not money that is not going to allow me to buy stuff from my distributor. I'm not going to have to decline allocations. I'm not going to decline collection purchases. This was excess capital that I deployed in this fashion because I've definitely gotten to the point where my capital is much less limiting than my time is, and having a little bit of passive is the wrong word, but like more passive booster boxes just sitting there, I think that is something that will do better for me. And then having this higher end, higher dollar density product allows me to deploy more capital, and I'm able to justify earning lower margins on stuff like this because it takes a certain amount of time to do it. Whether you're selling a $1,000 pack or a $10 pack, same amount of time to pack, fulfill it, ship it, all that stuff. But yeah, quick little video today. Dan video under 15 minutes. Quite the rarity. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy. Do you think booster boxes always outperform the S&P 500? Taxes considered. Maybe I'll make a video even in the meantime. Maybe before I wait 6 months, a year, 5 years on this. I do want to do a video talking more about taxes. You know me. You know I want to talk about my taxes. I just need to be careful, and I need to figure out the best way to do it. But I think taxes are the most misunderstood thing in Pokemon, and the most like suboptimally traversed terrains in Pokemon. So many people think they're helping themselves out, and they're just shooting themselves in the foot, in my opinion. Anyways, that's my video for today. I appreciate you all watching. I will catch you all later.